Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideoGame podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who kept us going for over 400 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week is Saruman 209.
I wanted to make a whom do you serve joke so bad.
Whom do you? I think Saruman has been dude of the week before a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago.
And it's about that time where it's about a good time to start rewatching Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it is my holiday movie.
It's a lot of us.
Yeah, my birthday, I watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Mhm.
And in like Thanksgiving weekend, I'll watch all three of the movies. Like Thanksgiving night, we'll watch Fellowship, and then blah blah over the weekend.
Theatrical or extended?
I watch the extended.
Right.
I mean, if you're gonna do it once a year, you just watch the extended. You just get in there crazy. But speaking of times of year, we also have a sponsor to thank, and it's the best time of year to have a sponsor because it's Black Friday. And of course, we're talking about Manscaped, and there's a lot of products that we like from them. But obviously, if you're in the market for the Performance Package 5.0, you're going to wait till Black Friday because you get 25% off site-wide and free shipping. All stuff. I don't know if I know our code works still, but I don't know if it gives you an additional 20% off.
So either way, if you do somehow miss the Black Friday, no worries. You can use the code YoVG for 20% off of free worldwide shipping. But there is a Black Friday sale.
And it'll run, I believe, from the 24th through Cyber Monday. And I think the deals are just site-wide 25% off and free shipping. And that makes it the perfect time to look at our number one favorite product, the Beard Hedger Pro. And we've gone over several times what we love about it. But for
this is by far the easiest and best to use. I guess beard trimmer. Beard trimmer. It's for your face, your actual face.
But I have used it on my head too.
He has used it on his head. It has a dial rotator in the middle, which means you do not have to remove the head for different sizes. So you can actually in length. So you can make a fade real easy with just rolling your thumb a little bit. And then this thing is powerful. It works instantly in ways that Todd Howard wishes his products did.
On top of that,
USB-C charger.
On top of that, I think taking from the lessons they learned from the Beard Hedger Pro, they updated the Lawnmower 4.0, which we also liked, but they put it into the Lawnmower 5.0, which has like interchangeable heads. But the best thing about the interchangeable head is that you can get this shaving attachment, this skin safe,
which comes from their other product, the Handyman, a portable razor, which
we
is actually very good. It actually it you can use it and it will keep you smooth for a while actually on the go.
The reason why we're recommending these three things in particular, even though we like a lot of their products, especially the crop preserver if you're just looking for a stocking stuffer, but the reason is because we genuinely we use these regularly now. I also tested this by shaving my head, the Lawnmower 5.0.
Nice.
And it worked. It actually worked, in my opinion, better than the Handyman, which I tested on my head.
I tested the Lawnmower in the shower, so it does work in the shower.
Yeah, I shaved my head in the shower. Worked great. But if you want to check out,
what did I say? I meant Lawnmower.
You meant the Lawnmower, yeah.
I said I tested the Lawnmower 5.0 in the shower, and it absolutely worked.
I've now tested all of these in the shower. Again, not directly under the water, because I still just these are expensive, and I don't know how I feel about testing it right, but apparently works wonderful directly under the water. I don't know. I'm not testing it that way, but I have tested it wet in the shower, just not under pouring water. It's got batteries. You're never going to get that fear out of my head. But if you're interested in checking any of these out, wait for Black Friday, get the 25% off, try our code too. Maybe there's more.
Yeah. Or don't wait to get 20% off with YoVG, or if you're a procrastinator like us, you can still use YoVG 20% off.
It's Christmas shopping season. Don't be a coward. Get this for your father-in-law.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a dual gift. It's for him, but it's also for your mother-in-law.
Show your father-in-law how much you love him and his family by getting him a Manscaped package.
Modern styles is what I'm saying. But you can if you don't want to wait for Black Friday, or you somehow missed the biggest sale on manscaped.com history, you can use our code YoVG, all caps, at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping worldwide, or in the Black Friday sale for 25% off and free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you.
Yeah. You know who's probably not feeling very thankful on this Thanksgiving day, and that just reminds me, I don't know why we're not doing a Thanksgiving episode.
Yeah, we can mix them.
But yeah, we're talking about Sony today. Sony. So Sony's had a little bit of news come up, a couple different things. One, there's a giant lawsuit that apparently got the go ahead, worth like $7.9 billion class action against them in the UK.
It's why I've been calling them Sumi.
Sumi this is for monopolistic practices on, I want to say, their online
on
prices.
their store. So basically,
storefront.
They charge a 30% commission period no matter what, so they don't pass on any savings. So oftentimes buying on their store is more expensive than buying elsewhere, and it kills by not allowing third-party sellers, it kills any competition.
Now,
it sort of puts you in a walled garden is the term they use.
I have nothing to back this up on, but it feels like this lawsuit possibly might have come about because of all the digging with the Microsoft,
right? Yeah,
antitrust lawsuit, and a lot of stuff came to light. So I'm like, wow, Sony, was it worth? Can you imagine if the snowball effect of like this coming out, which caused this people to get going, which caused a class action lawsuit, which somehow they lose or settle out, and it cost them billions of dollars trying to prevent Microsoft from buying Activision Blizzard, all because they didn't want that, even though Microsoft promised to keep COD on PlayStation.
Right. They're gonna settle because you don't have to admit guilt when settling, which means they don't actually have to change the behavior at all.
Isn't settling admitting guilt?
No, it is quite literally legally not admitting guilt. It's just it's like
whatever legally, but it is
sort of, yeah. I mean, in my mind,
you wouldn't settle if you were rock tight on your belief that you were innocent,
right? I don't know. I don't know how they're. I don't know if they're going to win. I think best case scenario they settle. The thing is like Apple had a similar problem, similar lawsuit, and Apple got away with it. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Okay, I don't know how I feel if this is actually going to go anywhere. This particular lawsuit, because and really, I've only really read the cliff notes of this, so I mean, I don't really think we're going to be dedicating too much time in the episode about like this particular lawsuit. I think it's more just sort of like a funny, haha, like look what you did, by just trying to stop this merger. Possibly, I don't actually know.
I mean, they're having so many headwinds. It feels like their whole deal with Microsoft is purely because next year doesn't look like a whole lot for them.
That's the thing, and that's the thing that's been bugging me in the back of my mind, and I keep bringing it up, and it's weird. Well, I mean, it's been weird in general. I've actually had a number of people defending corpos, and in media, I've had a bunch of media stands get angry at me, like not angry, but kind of like oh, why do you keep calling the media hive mind? You jerk. I'm like, wait, I thought everyone hated the media, whatever, gaming media journalism, but like, no,
beloved.
No, it's also weird because it's like, okay, like I'm usually kind of like, aren't you guys a little concerned? Like, when are we gonna like start hearing? But what got them on my? It's been like kind of unanimous. Very few people have been excited about this. Last of Us Part 2 remastered. That definitely had a lot of people like, what the fuck?
I was definitely on the what the fuck train.
I'm still there. I'm sorry. It's just like, what does this studio do? Like,
well, so once they came out with like a $10 upgrade for the new, the new graphics, but also the new
Right.
modes and all that stuff. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
it's not.
It's
They don't expect me
definitely
to
like
pay
softening
$70.
the blow. Now, here's the thing: I'm not a guy who's like, "Well, they're ripping you off. They're just trying to sell you the same thing again." No, no. To me, the price has nothing to do with it, and nothing to do with for me. The price has nothing to do with this. For me, I'm just kind of like, do you make other games?
No, that's really the problem. They're becoming the George R. R. Martin of
like,
the video game world.
okay, so we go back 10 years, right? And it's like, okay, Last of Us comes out,
Hmm.
and then they do Last of Us remastered. And they do Uncharted 4, which is great. I'm definitely not knocking Uncharted 4. And they do Lost Legacy,
Hmm.
and then they do Last of Us 2, and then they do Last of Us Part 1 remake, and then now they're doing Last of Us Part 2 remastered. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is that there is that chunk in there with, hey, there was Uncharted 4, a good, honest, proper send off to the Uncharted series, a meaty campaign, deal like post 4 campaign with Lost Legacy.
And I
I
respect
don't
them for ending the series.
Right, and that was the thing is like I had tons of respect, and then I almost lost the respect immediately with Last of Us Part 2 because I'm just kind of like Last of Us 1 didn't need a sequel with the same characters. And
Yeah.
I feel like to this day I'd still probably I feel like Last of Us 2 could have just been just fine if they just here's a completely different set of characters in a different part of the country or a different part of the world, and it would have
Right.
been fine. Like, I don't think Last of Us itself needed to end, but like continuing Ellie's story to me was just kind of like, okay, well, what I'm like, let me guess, Ellie's gonna go down this self-destructive path of vengeance. Oh wow, what shock he did. Um,
I Yeah, I mean, I like Last of Us 2 a lot, but
I mean, it's still a good game, despite what the chuds would have you believe. But like,
yeah, it's still good.
there's still a part of me that's just kind of like, man, like, because they have there's a lot of manpower and there's a lot of people and talent at Naughty Dog, and it's just crazy to me that like since Last of Us Part 2 came out, what is it, 3.5 years ago, whatever now,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, I think it's 3 years ago.
like they took
Three and a
over,
half, yeah.
they took over and did Last of Us Part 1, and now they're just doing Last of Us Part 2 remaster again.
Well, my
Um,
my big brain thing is that they're doing this for the show audience, so that they
right,
can go
which
out
is
and
what
buy a PS5 and just get
thought the PC version was for. Although that was a disaster because the people porting it, like kind of really
screwed it all up, yeah.
screwed it all up at the beginning. And
Yeah.
very intentionally released that part one on PC to coincide with the show's ending or starting or whatever.
Yeah, so I think 2 things happened here is, 1, an easy package, I bet you're gonna see a bundle, well, maybe not, I don't know, I bet you're gonna see a bundle, though, like, especially when
Oh, someone already showed the Steelbook thing
yeah,
because they
so
have these Steelbook covers that actually mirror each other
right.
in
So you're
every
going to see a
way.
bundle of that, especially when season 2 of The Last of Us is about to air. I bet that's what's going to happen. Is like they're going to have like a buy the PS5 and the 2 games in
Hmm.
a bundle, blah blah blah. Or they might even do a special PS5. I don't know, but that idea it softened the blow. Where I was like, ah, okay, I see the game here. But also the idea that like they did way more DLC essentially than they had planned to do for The Last of Us 2, and so they just, like,
But even
turned
that's
it into a
open
remix.
wound because remember they're like, oh, the
Factions,
multiplayer
yeah,
will be its own thing, and we're not that's nowhere to be seen. The
it's
the
dead.
the unofficial reports is that it's been backburned to hell because apparently Sony wasn't happy with what they saw, and Bungie said you don't have a 10-year plan here. So that's who knows where that is. And then it's like they're doing the remaster of the game before they even finish the multiplayer component, which was supposed to get its own standalone release.
I
That
think
never happened.
so Factions is dead, right? It's not nothing's happening here. I think what happened is they weren't building Factions to be live services, and this feeds into another thing of what the hell is Sony doing? It wasn't live services, and Sony came in and was all like, "We want it to be live services." They turned to Bungie and are like, "You're our live services guys. Fix this thing that has nothing wrong with it." And Bungie
Yeah.
came in and said, "You can't." So they killed it. there's no 10-year plan here.
So that's an interesting. And honest to God, it sounds so likely. It
Well,
sounds so likely how that went, because the report is basically that, like, oh well, they were making the game, and Bungie said you don't have enough. But I think
right,
what you're saying, and this is what I was saying, and you added on to that too, which was like, I think they were making a game, and it was just a multiplayer game.
right.
And they had maybe a year's worth of content planned post launch,
Yeah,
and and basically Sony was like, well, we want a live service game, so you're gonna have to convert it. I think what you're saying is probably even more likely, is like that's what they did. They made a multiplayer game, and so it's like, we want a live service game. Bungie, come in and fix this. Tell us what you got to do. And Bungie went like, this is, you got to scrap the whole thing.
and
Like
then
it's not salvageable. Like to turn this into that. And they're like, oh, okay, backburn it then.
right, and building off of that, Bungie is in equally, dire, or not dire straits, but it's in the shitter right now because, um, you know, DS2's not doing so hot. They had to backburn the newest campaign that they were talking
Mhm.
about releasing because they laid off 100 people. And so now they're trying to build trust again. All of their live services avenues are sort of dwindling. And dwindling's not, they're sort of just like becoming stale. And so now you look at, oh, they were fighting really hard to keep Microsoft from getting their big yearly cash cow
Mhm.
live services. Oh, okay, because there's not anything else planned for next year. It's all live services. That was the
It's
plan.
it's it's so hilarious to me how much 10 years ago the actions of Iwata were not listened to, and are coming back, and they're haunting game studios right now,
Right.
which was when they were doing very poorly during the Wii U days. They were like, "Why aren't you laying people off?" And he's like, "How I expect them to make games that everyone in the world's going to want to play if they're under threat of layoffs?"
Right. Well,
So his idea was so simple, and it was so sound. I can't make a game that everyone's going to freaking love if everyone is getting laid off or under threat of layoff. I need my developers to be secure and happy in their work, so that they can make the game that's going to get us to
right.
that golden promised land. And that's exactly what freaking happened.
I think one of the things is that Wada was speaking as someone who understood the industry, and most of the other voices in the industry are investors first, not
Yeah. And this was a shareholder asking him at a shareholders meeting.
right.
Someone who knows nothing about it. And all he sees is his, quarterlies and yearlies. And
Right.
he's just like, why aren't you consolidating? And he's like, because fuck you. That's not how this product works.
It's always a short-term thing to boost just the quarterlies to prevent, or to give
Mhm.
like a quick boost to the stock price and stuff. The thing is they know they're going to have to rehire those people early next year
Yeah.
or almost immediately. They often do, right? What is it? Amazon laid off several hundred people, or no, it's Microsoft laid off several hundred people and then turned around and hired several hundred more. Like they laid off entire teams and then turned around and hired.
Should have just, I don't know, shifted them or whatever.
Right. How many of those people were hired from maybe it's acquisitions, sure, but like how many of those people
And
could have just
that's
been
the
kept?
terrible other thing, though, is that there's going to be sometime next year, probably a bunch of layoffs at Activision.
Oh yeah.
Because there's redundancies and stuff
Right.
where like, you no longer need certain people. It's like, well, don't you need the PR people? Not really. Like, like
I I think one thing that is interesting is it feeds into so much as of what is going on right now with like job hunting. I don't know anybody if anybody listening is also job hunting, but like it's a nightmare out there for job hunting. But one of the things that you'll see often is like we want a person who believes in the company, who's gonna like work and build something here. And you're all
Mhm.
like, right, and you want to pay me $36,000 a year to do it. Like you want to give me no incentive to climb any corporate ladder.
Hmm.
You want It's like, oh, okay, so in 2 years I'm going to try and jump and then jump, and like everyone I know that started in like the mailroom, to use that metaphor,
Mhm.
uh they had to switch companies to get anywhere. You can't stay at the same company and climb any ladder because there's no ladder anymore.
Right.
Like it's a rope. They show you a picture of a rope you might be able to climb someday. And they post it on the wall in the break room, and they talk fondly about how, like, yeah, that's the corporate rope. You could climb it. You'll probably hang yourself with it. You should just jump companies. Like, there's no loyalty anymore. And I feel that's how I feel about fanboying now. It was never smart. It was never like, even when I was a
Yeah.
Sony fanboy, I guess 20 years ago, uh, that idea of like my brother was a Nintendo fanboy and I was a Sony fanboy, and we would like argue and argue, and like we'd get into scraps over it. And you're just like, now, now you're realizing like, none of that matters. It's not like they're gonna, you know,
Yeah.
give you anything special for being a fanboy. Just like play the system that has the games you want. It's the same reason why I don't blame anybody for not owning an Xbox. Xbox doesn't have anything you want right now, although Game Pass is legitimately fantastic. We've said that before.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that'll last. If Xbox becomes popular, Game Pass is going to get worse. Why? Because they will shitify it to maximize profit, because that's how corporations operate.
Right.
Um, that Sony just is like having a lot of that shitification happen right now. One of my favorite examples of like Sony fanboyism, but still not being able to stop the shitification, is the PlayStation Portal. It's sold out apparently. Like, it's apparently done very well. It is a slick looking wireless gadget for, it's a wireless peripheral.
It's literally the Wii U tablet for the PS5.
Right. And people like, I've seen posts online basically of people being like, oh, I thought it was going to let me play. And then like my wife could watch something or play something on the PS5. No, no, no. Your PS5 is still, it's just, instead of using your TV, you're using this smaller TV in your hand.
Yeah.
Cool if you're like, hey, I'm going to step away from the game to go poop, or, I'm going to lay down in bed and I want to play a game right before bed because I want to sleep like shit.
Yeah.
Um, that is cool. And I think it's like $2.99 for the, it's like, yeah, it's like $2.99. Um, for the person who wants that, I think you're very happy with that. What,
God,
if
was it
that's
really
what you
that
want.
much? That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot. But it's like, okay, if that's what you want, you're going to be happy with it. But it's not. I don't think it's what
It's
people want.
199. That's what I thought. It's $200.
199.
Yeah.
Um, I think what people really wanted is they wanted a PlayStation Portable. I
That's
think
not
that's
this.
right. And I think that's why they called it the PlayStation Portal.
Yeah.
To sort of play on that desire to want a portable PlayStation. Um, but they don't want to make another, uh, PSP, or Vita.
Yeah,
I'm
they don't want to like enter into having to develop a library or ecosystem for a separate system.
Well, and that's what I find interesting about this, is they don't have to, right? They have the library already. They have the ecosystem built. They just don't have anything. They can't like draw you in and lock you in the way
And
Steam
it
Deck,
doesn't use wireless network data either, like the early
right?
versions of Vita did. It just uses Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
And so and you take the world's most god awful first party controller on the market,
And
and you
slap a
basically
screen in
just
between it.
and you
Yeah.
just smack a screen, and but you just stretch your way
Well,
out, put a screen between it.
I don't think
Um,
I think it
so
looks
it's
slick compared to the other handhelds,
well,
because
it doesn't have that
there's
sort
no
of okay.
guts.
Do you remember the PlayStation, like a PSP you could just slide in and out of your pocket? It had that
Yeah.
sort of like slick glossy thing. Even the Vita, even though the Vita was dual stick or whatever, this is like just two wings of a big
Oh
old
yeah.
dual sense, just ripped apart, and then you stick an Android tablet in the middle. I
I So I think if
Portability on this
PlayStation,
thing is weird to me.
because we've had such leaps and bounds in technology, especially mobile technology, if PlayStation came out with a Vita, like a literal slide it in your pocket type deal right now, and it had Discord, and it had like a Discord integration, I mean,
Mhm.
but otherwise it's just like the PlayStation Store, and you can watch TV, you can do everything you can do on like a phone or your PlayStation, plus you can make Discord calls and stuff like that. I bet you it would do well.
Maybe. The problem, I think, is that there's so much crap like that on the market and so many apps and things that do that, that I'm honestly still shocked the Switch is even a success that it is, because part of me is just kind of like, when you see what smartphone technology is doing already, it's kind of like, well, they had a thing on PS4 called Remote Play,
Mhm.
where you could literally, just use your phone and, like, a little touchscreen interface to access your PlayStation 4, assuming it was
Oh, yeah.
on, and just, make it. I mean, obviously there's like a huge input delay, but like, I'm
Yeah.
surprised they're not just focusing more on that. Like, I don't know, does Sony still have a mobile phone side of their business? Like, do you remember when they
Ericsson, I
they
don't know if Ericsson's still around,
remember
actually.
when they had the PlayStation phone idea where it was like the
Uh-huh.
slide up thing and it had the buttons on it?
Yeah.
And it was really early when it kind of just didn't go anywhere. And part of me is still kind of like, man, I wonder. I don't think I think slide phone stuff will never come back. I think people are just not happy with it.
No, look, the
Um,
fold phones have come back.
Fold phones have come back.
Yeah, I think
The
the Sidekick, which was kind of the coolest phone when I was in
Yeah,
high
of
school.
course.
Um, touchscreen technology and the Sidekick idea marrying, the Sidekick was a bulky phone. If you had that much space to put tech into now, and it's all digital media and stuff, so you don't need a disk drive. Imagine the kind
Yeah.
of guts they could fit into it.
I mean, I used to have one of those things. Remember
They're great.
and it broke when we got back from vacation one time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was a touch screen phone and had a little slide out keyboard. But it was an
Um,
Android phone. Oh,
the thing is
I've
like
never caught on. It's so weird to me.
there's there's real there's real potential there now, I think. Um, because I think people want something dedicated. Like I think the reason why Switch has done well is it is the most portable system. Granted, yes, Steam Deck, right, but
Mhm.
Switch is the most portable system. It is not intimidating. They're like Steam Deck from a casual user, like its design is to be designed to like capture the you want power, you want
Mhm.
sophistication in your gaming. Cool, but the power of the Switch is that it's like this is a game system that you can pick up, you hit one button, and like you're gonna figure it out real fast. There's nothing intimidating about the Switch. Plus,
Yeah.
it has a price tag that isn't like if you give this to a kid and it breaks, will absolutely shatter your mind. It's not cheap, but it's not like, you know,
Mhm.
it's not a gaming PC in your hands.
Yeah.
Um, I think the same thing goes for like Sony. Sony could go the pocket sized, portable thing again.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too, is that thinking about that with the pocket size portable stuff is like Lenovo just came out with their Steam Deck clone. The
Hmm.
ROG Ally came out. There is a Steam Deck, and then there's probably more on the way. I'm getting, I might have access to something and soon for Android, like gameplay. I might get one of them on
Oh
my
yeah.
own. And it's like it's kind of wild to me because first, there was a lot of these were these little emulator boxes, these little, like, they kind of look like a PSP or Game Boy
Hmm.
Advance or something, and
Yeah.
they're they're
Yeah, I know
they're
what you're
very
talking about.
much they very much exist to sort of like put old emulators on. But like the market after Steam Deck has sort of exploded into like, okay, no, put the whole PC experience on the thing, like what the ROG and Steam Deck and the Lenovo thing do. Lenovo's got the Switch thing where like the sides slide off, and one can literally attach to a thing, like make it a joystick that's a mouse, and
Huh.
you can like have it like the stand in front of you, and you have basically your Joy-Con on this circular pad that it connects to, and you slide that around on a desk like it's a mouse, and so it mimics mouse movement.
I
Um, Crazy
now
stuff like that.
now imagine instead of a keyboard sized, you know, uh mini PC basically,
Mhm.
if Sony was like, okay, we've got the brand strength that we're just going to bring back the PlayStation Portable, but it's now the size of a large, like a iPhone Pro Max,
Right.
which is a big phone, but for a handheld would be sleek as hell compared to what's on the market right now.
Yeah, and it would be a good time to do that. But here's the thing. Here's the real thing, and this is the crux of the whole. I think this whole episode really is that if Sony were to split its attention to another portable system,
Mm,
would it even work? Because here's the thing. When was the last time you heard of a PSVR 2 game getting announced?
Right.
European Extreme Difficulty. When was the last time you heard a first-party Sony-developed PSVR 2 game getting announced?
Right.
That thing came out this year, Andrew. This year. That came out in this year. It's already dead.
No, and I think that's a beautiful point as to Sony very much thought VR was going to explode the way handheld is exploding again.
Yeah.
And I feel like actually, we might have said this in a past podcast when we were talking about the Switch, where I was arguing that like Microsoft and Sony will want to get back into handheld.
Yeah,
And
we have talked about that specifically on handhelds, but I'm just kind of like, Sony right now cannot their entire entertainment, side of their company, or their PlayStation side, their video game side, has one system only to worry about.
Mhm.
They don't, it's PlayStation 5 at this point. They're not even doing PS4 versions anymore. Thank God, finally. They have one system. They cannot keep a consistent release schedule of product for one system right now. And
Right,
it shows.
Wolverine is pushed back, isn't it? Like,
Right. So there was an unconfirmed, because and until Sony literally says it themselves, it's unconfirmed. But there was a report saying that Wolverine is not planned for 2024. It is a 2025 planned release.
so what do they have coming out first party?
I don't know. Death Stranding 2, maybe? Maybe. I think that's
Like I'm sure 2024 upcoming game release schedule according to GameSpot. But that's not. Oh, this is so they've got Prince of Persia, but that's on everything. The
no,
Lost Crown.
Sony first party.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. I don't see any Sony only first party in January. A Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is going to be on PS5, 4, and PC.
Right.
So there's that. The Grand Blue fans are going to be pretty amped about that, but I don't know actually the audience size for Grand Blue. Like, I don't think it's that big, is it?
Not in America. Japan, maybe. Japan, it'll probably do pretty decent. But that game's been in development for like 7 years, Andrew.
Yeah.
7, 8
Helldivers 2
years.
is in February. That's a PS5 and PC.
Like, if you're like a first party, hey, I buy PlayStations for PlayStation games, for Sony first party games. Like, 7 Rebirth is kind of their next big game, but it's a 3-month exclusivity window. Doesn't have that year and a half that they did for Remake. Rebirth is only 3 months.
Oh
So
man, this is a depressing list.
That's not saying Rebirth will show up immediately in May or June on PC, but it could.
So to be fair, I'm referencing GameSpot. I don't know how accurate this is, but it looks like there's no, from a cursory glance, it looks like there's no exclusives, like absolute exclusives coming out early next year. And then when you get to like June and like the back half, it's all
Rebirth is kind of it, but again, it's a 3-month window of exclusivity.
right. And so then it's just to be announced, and there's just a bunch of games, but it's all like PC. Like there's not even PS5 exclusives. Yeah, I mean, like there's stuff coming out. I don't want to alarm people. Like if you've got a PlayStation 5, there's stuff coming out. I'm talking specifically of exclusives, like first party exclusive. There's not
Right,
really
which
that I'm
is to me
seeing.
is just kind of like, when do everyone's saying like, they don't want to announce games to it, because everyone talked about like how they, you announce a game, it takes forever to come out and people forget about it or whatever, or lose interest by the time it comes out. So there's like, okay, but then the pendulum can swing the other way, where it's like, now we literally know nothing.
Foam Stars will be coming out sometime next year,
Nobody cares.
but that's a PS5, PS4 exclusive.
I think it is. That's right. Yeah.
It is.
From Square, it will last 10 months maybe. I don't think anyone's buying a system for that necessarily.
God, that'd be hilarious to me. Yeah, I'm sure there has to be, like, it's sort of insane to me that yeah, I'm just still scrolling and I haven't seen anything that is an actual exclusive. There's lots of games that'll be on it, but nothing exclusive. So what the hell? How did this happen? How do you have a year where no exclusive. Now, granted, we've seen Xbox do this, but also
The thing
Xbox
is,
is
okay,
not
we
doing
don't
too
we
well.
don't necessarily have hard release dates for anything on Xbox, although we did have
Right.
that we did have that leak from the court documents
Yeah.
and stuff. But here's what okay, when I think, well, what's coming out for Xbox? Avowed, the Obsidian RPG,
Right.
Avowed, Outer Worlds 2, that's probably further off, both Obsidian, Indiana Jones from Machine Games,
Mhm.
you've someday Perfect Dark, someday Fable, uh like those are that's at least 5 or 6 games just like really off the top of my head right there. I'm just kind of like, okay, well, I can think of at least 5 or 6 first party games like immediately that they're gonna have. Just there's that.
Yeah,
I don't
what
know.
was it? It was 2021 and 2022, where it was just kind of like they didn't have a whole lot coming
Yeah.
out first party. So obviously, uh, they've survived, but they did a lot of acquisitions in that time. Um, it's weird to see Sony having the same problem that they're gonna have an entire year, it looks like, where basically no real first party presence.
The thing is,
Um,
I'm pretty sure um I'm pretty sure Sony's going to have something. Like something's going to happen, right? There's that marathon or reboot.
from Bungie,
Yeah, although that's apparently not system exclusive though.
and I don't think
Um
that's coming this year.
the game's target has shifted to 2025. Terrific.
Right.
Um
Because that's one of the ones that I was looking at, and I was like, "Oh,
I guess, and again, going back to the start of this episode, technically Last of Us Part 2 remastered is coming out in January.
yeah," and that's gonna be
Wow.
their exclusive. Maybe that's why they got pushed to do that. Naughty Dog seems like they're their money printer patch lately, if
I
that makes sense.
guess I don't know because like are they going to make new games? Like Jesus.
I don't. Um, is this why they fought so hard to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation? Is this why
And it's
they were
still
like,
gonna be on PlayStation.
yeah, but like were they afraid that if they lost Call of Duty, they'd lose next year's
I
lunch,
mean I
basically?
mean, that would be it honestly it
It'd be a
would be a
blow, yeah.
huge blow to their yearly releases and stuff to
Yeah.
lose because they do make a crap load of money
Oh,
every
yeah.
year from every year they release a Call of Duty. So to have that just stop would be a blow to them. Um, but yeah, this is just strange to me where it's like I can think of like half a dozen Xbox, releases off the top of my head that are confirmed that have like they've been announced. They exist. They're going to exist at some point. And for Sony, I can think of Marathon. I can think of Death Stranding 2. I can think of Wolverine. Everything else is pure speculation. Now, Ghost of Tsushima 2 is going to happen. Like it
Someday,
will.
yeah.
Someday it will happen. And
Imagine if they
Corey,
shadow dropped that, like, they were just like, "Oh, and
oh
it's coming out
God,
now."
and Corey
August.
Barlog is doing his own game as well at Sony Santa Monica. It's like someday we don't even know what it is. So it's like okay, there's that, but that's very nebulous. Like this guy they said they're gonna make a new game from Sony Santa Monica, like separate from God of War. Cool, like it'll God knows when, but we
Right,
don't
and
know,
God of War came out
literally
last.
know nothing about it.
How long ago did the latest God of War come
A
out?
year ago,
Yeah, so almost exactly a year ago. So it's
it's gonna be
nothing's coming out.
years.
Yeah, nothing's coming out this coming year from that guy. Um, although that would be cool. I don't know
It
how
would
he would have.
right. Well, it would have had to have been. They would have had to have started the game literally a year after Ragnarok started, or at the same time Ragnarok started. That'd be the only way. Um,
Yeah, and as a director,
it's
maybe you could work on two games at once, but
well, he
you.
didn't direct two or Ragnarok. That he gave that to someone else so he could go do his other game.
Oh,
Um,
well, okay, then maybe,
but
maybe.
I just it's not. It's almost for sure just not happening this year. Because here's the thing: is when you get to January and February, then it's kind of start to be like if you don't have a game announced for that year, whatever you show is almost for sure not coming out that year.
Right.
Usually, like usually you don't unless you're like Nintendo and like here's Metroid Dread, it comes out in 3 months. Here's Mario Wonder, it comes out in like 4 months. Usually it doesn't really work this way, where your major holiday release is a complete unknown until June. That doesn't usually happen.
Okay, so let's wildly speculate. Maybe they, like Nintendo, have changed up how they view marketing in the internet age. Maybe they're just not announcing slates well in advance anymore.
You know what I think it might be?
What?
You're on the right track here. They may be waiting for June, and then they're going to announce the PS5 Pro, and then there'll be some major game that hasn't been technically announced yet that really takes advantage of the PS5 Pro, and this is why you want to buy a PS5 Pro. Comes out in November.
Yep, you're right. It'll be The Last of Us 2 remake.
Especially enhanced for PS5 Pro.
Yeah. You can smell Abby sweating.
And to oh god, and to be perfectly honest, like from what we understand, all the industry rumors is that there is a PS5 Pro. It's going to happen. Is probably going to happen next fall.
Right. They did the Slim. Now they're gonna.
I absolutely hate the idea of a PS. And it's funny because that will be 4 years. I think 4 years after the PS5 came out, which normally that would be near the tail end of a console's life. Except PS3 and PS4 lasted way longer than normal.
They're gonna go for 7 years at least
Oh,
with
oh,
PS5.
for sure.
Yeah.
So that's why you have a PS4 Pro right in the middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm mad because I'm like I feel like I have never played a game that pushed my PS5 at all. Like I still have never played a game that was like, oh god, it really needed a PS5. Like of the PS5 exclusive games that I owned and played, which some aren't even two aren't even exclusive anymore, which was Returnal and Ratchet and Clank, both on PC. Both are done on PC on a normal hard drive. Spider-Man 2 is it. And Spider-Man 2 is a little buggy.
Didn't Ratchet and Clank have like a portal system that needed the fast? I thought that was like a big part of their. Well,
but the PC version came out so late that even when that was pointed out, most people went like, "Yeah, okay, what? Yeah, I guess not, huh?"
You know, oddly enough, Alan Wake 2 probably would have its visuals and stuff. It probably would have pushed the PS5 and looked real damn good. Because like on when I have it set for the different like maximum settings I can run on my PC, which again is a beefy post production rig, like it puts it up there. Like it can get.
Well, apparently the console version runs mid to low specs on of the PC version.
Oh well,
for Alan Wake 2. Like from what I understand, like yeah, like it's running at medium or low settings.
so it's not going to push the PS5 to anything.
Well, they're not even trying.
Yeah, dang. I was like in my head I was like that could look really good, but
because from what I understand, and maybe I'm wrong on this, I think the PS5 is a 2070.
Okay.
From what I understand, like that's what a PS5 is. No, it's not awful, but it's also nowhere close to your or I's GPU necessarily.
Right. And granted, I would not own this GPU if I didn't need it. And now the end of the thing that sucks, this is a terrible aside, but for anybody who does like content creation, or just general like filmmaking and stuff, I bought the GPU that I have. I have a 3090. I bought that because when I first got DaVinci Resolve, it required way more resources to do like fusion and to do color and stuff like that because there weren't proxy files in the edition that I had. And then maybe a month after I had bought it, they put in proxy files because everyone was requesting them. And so like a month after I built this PC to be able to run it, like I didn't need it anymore. You know, because like professional PCs for like editing rigs, you might think are like super beefy. They're not. They're not like weak machines, but like if you go into a post-production house, unless it's a visual effects house, visual effects PCs, depending on the type of visual effects, yes, are super beefy. But even then, I'm not sure if it's GPU beefy or if it's just like RAM and CPU. Yeah, but sorry, an aside, DaVinci Resolve better than Adobe Premiere Pro by far. DaVinci Resolve for life.
Well, the industry's got to like accept it, to become industry standard.
Yeah, and DaVinci Resolve is industry standard for color, but they use Avid for everything else. Granted, if you're in commercials or you want to get into commercials, or you want to get a corporate videography job, you want to be like a videographer, or what often happens is they'll call you a video producer and expect you to know how to do every aspect of video production, period. Um, but if you want that, then they'll probably be like, oh, you need to know Premiere Pro because they want to pay one monthly fee to have everything all the time. And they love that. And they'll often be like, oh, you must have advanced skills in the thing. And it's like, well, if you do any of this regularly, like you can learn any of those programs pretty fast because it's all the same ideas, just different names for the tools. Um, but you also probably have like a favorite. And I've never heard anyone go like, yeah, Premiere Pro is my favorite. The camps are Avid or DaVinci, so far as I know, for like people in post, you know,
Final Cut.
eh, I
Well,
I don't
maybe some
I
years ago.
when I first started at 19, yes, Final Cut 7, I think was like everybody was using that. That was the industry standard. By the time I got out of college, every TV and like film, they were all using Avid. And to be fair, Avid's pretty friggin' good. It's not pretty, it doesn't have any like UI design that makes it pretty. It looks very stock, bare bones, but it runs great. It's super stable and like it's really good standardization. Like everybody who's
That's
working
a
on it.
resource hog.
Not really.
That's what
No.
that's what that's what he that's what everyone used to say, man.
Avid, no, Avid's not a resource.
Premiere, yeah.
Adobe
Oh,
Premiere,
sorry.
yeah,
Adobe.
Premiere is a resource hog out
Not
the ass and
Avid.
it
Not
crashes a
Avid.
lot.
Premiere is a.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got that mixed up. Adobe Avid.
Avid, you use proxy file, like you don't need a
Right.
beefy
No.
rig for it.
Adobe is the hog, resource hog.
Yeah, because it's not optimized at all. Like it's just oof. Anyway, that's my current pissing me off because I'm having to relearn Adobe stuff. And every time I get into something with Adobe, I'm like, God, Avid does this so, or not Avid, although it would be true of Avid too. Resolve is like a joy to use. Like the node system, once you learn it, makes so much sense and it's just sort of great. And then you go back to layers and you're like, yeah, layers is easy to learn, but it's ugh. Sorry. It's too bad Sony isn't still making Vegas.
That's right. They sold it off.
They did. They sold it off like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. How long?
I guess it's been a while now, huh?
Sony Vegas was never used professionally, but it was the easiest consumer editor I think I've ever seen. Like it was the most intuitive out of the box to just use your keyboard and not your mouse to cut, which makes you way faster. And it just sort of like worked and it took like no resources to run. And it's like basically as long as your footage wasn't killing your PC, like your PC was going to run Vegas. And then they got bought by that other company that tried to like build an ecosystem, kind of like Adobe. And oh man, it went to shit so fast. I don't know why Sony sold it off. Probably because it was one of the most pirated prosumer,
Well, because
programming.
here's the thing: what is Sony doing otherwise that's successful for them? Like their TVs, their sound systems, their phones. Like what department of Sony Electronics in any general
It's just
sense
murdering it.
is doing well? It's like it's just PlayStation at this point. Like their movie studio is kind of like up and down. If their film division's doing well or not. But come on, man. Like that's kind of the weird thing here is that like PlayStation is their gravy train, 100%.
Hence the
And it
lawsuit.
feels like they're kind of just rolling on goodwill alone right now. And here's the stark here's the stark contrast here. And even I kind of forget about this a little bit. Okay, so this year they had the PSVR 2 launch and they had the VR2 games or the MOs like Gran Turismo 7 and Horizon Call of the Mountain. As far as those are first party releases this year from Sony. But otherwise, they did not release any other games for the first party for the PS5 besides Spider-Man 2, unless I'm like really forgetting something.
So I don't play VR games, so I'm not really sure how many like third party VR games are coming out. Like this is sort of a joke, but I have a feeling that there's like a lot of truth to it. I want to say that it was like a game journalist that made this joke on Twitter, and I don't even remember how long ago I saw this, but they were basically like the only thing floating VR is porn. Like VR porn is the
Oh
number
God,
one
really?
selling thing on VR. Yeah, and I don't know how true that is, but it feels like there's like a kernel of truth to that, where it's like porn is floating this piece of technology because nothing else is really coming out that's super
Well,
attractive.
we'll just think about this, okay? Notable releases this year from Nintendo: Fire Emblem Engage January 20th, Metroid Prime Remastered February 8th, Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe February 24th, Bayonetta Origins Soray's and the Lost Demon March 17th. They had Xenoblade Future Redeemed come out at the end of April. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp April 21st. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on May 12th. Pikmin 1 plus 2 Shadow Drop June 21st. Your favorite game, Everybody Went to Switch, which was available for $10, got
Hell
sold
yeah.
out and sold out.
Hell yeah.
Came out June 30th. Pikmin 4 came out July 21st. F-Zero 99 came out September 14th. They had big Pokemon DLC September 6th. Detective Pikachu Returns came out October 6th. Super Mario Wonder came out October 20th. WarioWare Move It came out November 3rd. Super Mario RPG just came out on this November 17th. They've had at least 12 releases this year. Not always one per month, sometimes multiple games per month. But they have had over, more than at least more than one title, first party title for every day of the month. Now, granted, some of these games are small, like Everybody Went to Switch, WarioWare, whatever.
God, I hope if we're still doing this in 10 years, you have to say everybody 115 Switch or one. I hope there's just like always a 1-2 Switch.
Oh my God. So I'm just pointing that out here. Like, so, and then like, what is Sony's release calendar this year? Spider-Man 2 and VR2, I guess.
Yeah, it's not
Microsoft's
looking.
not a lot better, but they had Hi-Fi Rush, and then they had Redfall, and then Starfield,
Yeah.
and then Forza.
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush and Starfield alone, I feel like are two. Like
Yeah,
Hi-Fi Rush was a real surprise for me.
That's 4 big games. One of
Yeah,
them a complete disaster, but 3 out of 4 ain't bad.
3 out of 4 ain't bad. It's the ham sandwich of game
Right.
slates.
And Sony had Spider-Man 2.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
PSVR 2. I don't even know what, because PSVR 2 is literally like, it's a peripheral system. That's like saying the Sega CD was a release for the Sega Genesis. It's kind of is and isn't, because it was a $550 peripheral system that you needed to buy separately and buy games for that specifically that wouldn't play otherwise on PlayStation
Right.
5. So it's like its own separate thing.
Yeah, I always think of it as its own system, but I guess
And
to be
it really
fair,
is. It is. It
but
needs a
you need a
PS5,
P
but
yeah, you need a PS5 to play it. So is that I don't um I've also suspected that VR hurts whatever system it comes out on. Like there was the time where I speculated that Switch would have some sort of VR face thing that you just like slot the Switch into to do VR on Switch. But in hindsight, I'm like, oh yeah, that obviously, I was saying it because it's dumb and funny, but at the same time, like I think Nintendo of all the big kind like saw VR for the sham that like it's never
yeah,
gonna carry water.
I'm even with Phil on it, where it's like it hasn't proven itself yet.
Yeah, it's not. It
We're like,
hasn't.
how come Xbox? Like, well, maybe, but it's like I don't see. And he literally said, like, he called the metaverse like a really shitty product. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
He was like, it's a really crappy product.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, he ain't wrong, but usually you just don't hear about mud being flinged like that anymore.
Well, he's not in Silicon Valley, so he doesn't have to run into Musk at his favorite, or not Musk. Fuck, what's the other alien guy?
Mark
Zuckerberg. Yeah, he doesn't
Zuckersberg.
have to. The Zuck. He doesn't have to run into the Zuck at his favorite like cafe.
You know what's hilarious? And I'm looking at the PlayStation.com on there. You can just type this in, and I'm like, 23 great games to look forward to in 2023. I just want to read down this list. Sony's list, right?
Okay.
This is on their website for PlayStation.com. Number 1, Spider-Man 2. Okay, that came out. That was their number 2 is Horizon Call of the Mountain, the VR game. I like the game, pretty cool, but like, okay, like you're only flexing it because it's your only other first-party game.
Oof.
Number 3, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. That didn't come out.
I keep forgetting that it's just not coming out.
Didn't even come out. That's their number 3. 4 was Hogsworth Legacy.
Hogwarts, yeah.
Transphobes Legacy. Number 5 is Resident Evil 4. Okay.
Right on.
Assassin's Creed Mirage. Season, A Letter to the Future, that indie bike riding game. Jedi Survivor, that happened. Final Fantasy 16. Stellar Blade never came out.
Okay.
Chia, I liked it. Nobody else played it.
I wanted to play that, and I kept forgetting about it.
I understand. It kind of fell out of everyone's consciousness. Wild Hearts has already been shut down.
Oof.
Good old Lazarus. Firewall Ultra. Did anyone play that? That was the VR game.
No one even knows what it is.
Dead Space remake. Number 16, Forspoken. Remember that came out?
Oof. Yeah.
Yeah.
That had a hard time.
Street Fighter 6. Eternight, some weeb looking thing. Burning Shores DLC. I guess Burning Shores kind of counts. It was good. I played it. I beat it. The Horizon 2 DLC, Burning Shores.
Yeah, I haven't played that yet, but I bought it.
A game called Sin Duality from Namco. I don't even remember this game. Sci-fi third-person shooter. I don't think it even came out. I don't remember. I don't even know. Lords of the Fallen, that did come out. Pacific Drive, I don't even remember this. Alone in the Dark, and then Alone in the Dark to end it out with, and that got delayed till next year.
Yeah. Do they have a list like that for next year?
Ooh.
They do.
Ooh. I don't know. Let's find out. No.
Oof. The thing is I don't want this to be portrayed as we're us rooting against them.
No, it's to me, this is more of a question of their optics. And
like, what are they? Yeah.
You and I are both PlayStation 5 owners.
Mm-hmm.
We both have products. And I guess really the final thing to really talk about here is, what could Sony announce that would get you really excited and happy? That's like a Sony exclusive first party thing.
Yeah. We were talking about this where it's like the Game Awards doesn't have a horror category. And part of me is like, oh, you know why that is like not enough first party games, because first parties are the ones that have all the money to bribe Game Awards. I'm sorry, I mean encourage Game Awards to have categories for them. So part of me is like, I want to see more first party horror, especially survival horror. Like that's one thing that I really liked about Alan Wake is like the combat is very traditional. Like it's a little slower.
So do you want to see Siren come back? Extermination come? Nobody knows what the fuck Extermination is for PlayStation 2.
I don't know what Extermination is. Siren would be kind of cool. I would also like, I mean, if they had something come out that was another like tactical shooter, that would be kind of cool. But there's not a lot of first parties off the top of my head, because this is something that I've also, with the Last of Us remaster thing. Yeah, it's a remaster, not a remake. There's so much IP that just gets left for dead, basically. Like that you literally forget they exist. But a Ghost of Tsushima getting shadow dropped would, I mean, that would jazz me up.
Not, I mean, I don't. It'll never. There's no
way
chance
they're gonna. Yeah, no, I know there's no way they're gonna do it, but like that would jazz me up. Another big DLC for Horizon, or a Horizon Splinter game. That kind of like
Yeah,
where
I
we
don't
talked
know.
about in the past, where it's
I
like
have.
something that explores
I have no idea why they didn't do a first person.
end of
Whatever
the world. Yeah,
end of the world game. Not emergency. That's Gears. Whatever they called it.
yeah.
Forward Dawn or whatever.
What about for you?
I mean, Ghost is okay. I'm not expecting Ghost of Tsushima to come out next year, even in
No.
the best case scenario. I just want to see it. I just want the hype train to leave the station for Ghost of Tsushima 2.
Yeah.
And I do not feel next year is asking too much, because it was like, it just came out. What are you talking about? Games take time. It just came out. And I'm like, it came out in 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
In 2024, hearing about part 2 wouldn't be that crazy, would it? Because in 2017, Horizon came out. In 2018, God of War came out. And in 2022, God of War Ragnarok came out. Okay.
Right.
Am I asking the moon here for just seeing Ghost of Tsushima 2 in the same time frame it took them to release God of War 1 and Ragnarok?
A minor aside, but I hope Ghost of Tsushima 2's world is a little bit more filled out. That's my only complaint about Ghost of Tsushima, is that the world feels empty, other than like going after Mongols.
I don't know that the world needs to be bigger. I don't,
It doesn't need to be bigger.
To
I want it
flesh
to be
out what
more.
you said.
I want it to be dense.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're on the same page there, where I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I think you're right. And this is what I literally remember having this conversation with Kenny when he was like, I was playing devil advocate a little bit, but he was just kind of like, oh, F critics or whatever. I'm like, why isn't this game getting as good reviews? And I'm like, and why isn't it going to win game of the year? I'm like, because there's nothing to do in the game besides kill Mongols. Like there's literally nothing. You cannot really do anything. You upgrade. You could go to shops and you could buy upgrades for your armor and your sword, and that's kind of it.
It's a great game.
Like there's I know there's haikus, and then there's the climbing, the follow the fox to climb the thing.
Yeah.
And then there's like the little mini game where you press the buttons as they show up on screen to chop the bamboo. They're like the haikus, the wood chopping, bamboo chopping,
Right.
and then just the climb up. The haikus is nothing. It literally is just like you just find a placemat and you just choose 3 things, and that's it. There's no gameplay there.
Right.
And the mini game thing is also almost next to no gameplay. I'm like, because there's nothing to do in Tsushima, and I think this is where the critics, because I'm like, there's not like fishing, there's not like town building or like anything. And he's like, oh, F that, I don't want to do any of that. And I'm like, I know, but this is where a critic will look at like Assassin's Creed, Valhalla or Odyssey or whatever, and they're like, there's a million things you can do in that game.
Yeah, you don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it, right? And then there's like, well, Ghost of Tsushima, it's a beautiful game and it's fun to play, but what do you do in the game? You pretty much you kill Mongols. You either run up and chop them, or you sneak up and stab them in the back. That's it.
Right.
That's kind of the game, is just kill Mongols.
And it's good times. I enjoyed the game. I'm just saying I've never replayed it.
But it's like it feels like I think what would be nice, besides like, oh, more multiplayer crap, and we had fun with multiplayer. We'll play. But like, it would be nice if there was more to do in the world of Ghost of Tsushima. Like, if they could, what if there was a non-combative skill that's not related to the combat at all, where it's like you're just going to learn how to, I don't want to say basket weave, that sounds lame, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to learn this skill, or I'm going to learn like a tapestry art, or I'm going to like the thing, like it just kind of like lets you acquire some skill, like painting your sword scabbard or something, like design or something. Like you unlock.
You want to be historically accurate,
right?
Tea ceremonies. Samurai that were really good at tea ceremonies.
People don't know how hard it is to prepare tea properly.
Right, yeah. Like, a tea ceremony, a samurai who was good at a tea ceremony was considered a master.
And I don't want to, and I don't really want to like get like, I don't want to like give too much credence to it, but imagine if they had something like the Nemesis system from the Mordor games, where you could sort of like influence areas of the map into being for or against you, or for or against other factions. Having a clan rivalry stuff.
Yeah, just generally having stuff that is more I don't know, dense, like more like that makes you want to spend more time in the game
Yeah.
outside of the main campaign. Like the
Correct. Yeah,
main
yeah.
campaign's great, but like there's no other like there's whole sections of the map where there's not really a reason to go there unless you're hunting a fox. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, at that point, why make it open world? Beautiful open world. I liked it, but there's no reason to be there. And like having stuff to kind of do,
I think it
I
would
think
be
would
kind of
make
cool if, like, if say, like, because there's like lighthouse areas or whatever, or like
Mhm.
points of interest, and the Mongols are there. You go and you kill the Mongols. It would be interesting if that created towns and economy.
Right.
That where it's like you start like, and if I open up enough stuff in an area, it creates a trade route so that a particular type of item or type of sword or type of something now exists in the shops that only exists if I freed these specific areas along this specific trade route. Something like
Yeah.
to that
Yeah, I would dig
extent.
that.
I think the other thing for me is just a Jack and Daxter 2. Not 2, sorry, no, a Jack and Daxter reboot,
Yeah.
or a full-on sequel. Probably not Naughty Dog at this point. I'd probably rather have Insomniac do it, but they're pretty busy, it looks like. So I don't know. To me, it would just be nice to go into something that's a little bit. I don't want necessarily like a Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank, because I get it. I get it. Like the Scrimblow Bimblows that do play PlayStation want their like eternally E-rated, E for everyone. But I'm like a sort of E10 to teen, not edgy, not Jack 2 edgy, please God no, but something just a little bit more like Avatar or Korra level of like seriousness.
Okay.
Characters can die or get shot or whatever, right?
Yeah.
um you know Having a Jack and Daxter game that kind of like is in that sort of 10 to 15, 10 to teen rated area, but it's like, hey, a big new Jack and Daxter that's a little more focused on being exploration based, something like that. It'd be fun. I feel it's untapped
Yeah.
personally.
I could buy that. And that's actually like a good, comment section prompt is like, what's the thing you'd like to
Yeah.
see that would reignite some
Yeah.
fervor
What is
for
something? Yeah.
Sony? Yeah.
What could Sony announce that's
Gives
going to
you the
get you real
fizz.
excited to own a PlayStation 5?
On that note, it feels like we've been saying that since the PlayStation 5 came out. It's like, what's the thing that makes me want to have this? Um,
Well, I mean, it's just weird to me that we've literally come to the end of a year and they have nothing,
right.
nothing planned.
Sort of strange. But on that note, we have producers to thank. Again, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was Saruman 209. And our producers for this episode are Mutton Chops Johnson, Screwami, Croy 35, Hyper Viper 89, ZZ, and Online Persona. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.